This episode is sponsored by Anchor. If you haven't heard about Anchor, it's the easiest way to make a podcast. Let me explain. First, it's free, so, doesn't get any cheaper than that. Second, there are creation tools that will allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer. I'm editing this podcast from a Chromebook using the web, so it's pretty easy to do. If I can do it, you can certainly do it. Third, Anchor will distribute your podcast for you so it can be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and so many more services. So you don't have to go to each individual podcast service and distribute it yourself. It automatically does that for you, so that's pretty awesome. Fourth, you can make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership. So, it's a pretty good way to make some money. And then, last but not least, it's everything you need to make a podcast in one place. So download the free Anchor app for iOS or Android, or go to Anchor.fm to get started. That's ANCHOR.FM to get started, or download the app for iOS or Android today. The following episode may contain language that is not suitable for certain listeners. Listener's discretion is advised. Hello, and welcome to the Cels and Circuits podcast. I am your host, Chibeze Anakor, and on the final episode of 2020, we're going to talk about my favorites in animation, tech, and gaming for the year of 2020. And so, without further ado, let's just jump right into it. All right, so let's talk about our favorites in animation for 2020. So, but before I do that, I should just let you know that this entire episode isn't going to be edited. These are just my unfiltered opinions on what my favorites in animation, tech, and gaming are for the year of 2020. And you are, of course, welcome to let me know your favorites on social media and on Discord, and we can continue the conversation there. But yeah, this will be our final episode of 2020, so let's just get right into our favorite, or let's get into my favorites, since, I'm a solo host on this show. So, favorites in animation for 2020. So first up, we got the favorite new cartoon series of 2020. The first one of those would be the Animaniacs reboot that just came out last month. So Animaniacs 2020 came out on Hulu in November, and it was pretty great. The jokes were pretty funny. I liked the chemistry between Yakko, Wacko, and Dot, and I also like that Pinky and the Brain made a return. And while some of the other characters didn't make a return, and some of the other segments that they used to do didn't make a return, I'm glad that at least the core characters got to return. So I'm thankful for that. And yeah, Animaniacs 2020, definitely recommend that. And so next up is Close Enough. Now, this is a show that I have been waiting on ever since it was announced back in, what was it, 2017 or so. But it's been years since that show was announced, um, and it was originally announced for TBS because they were trying to build out an animation block, because TBS has American Dad, and they want some other cartoons to accompany it, especially since TBS will be losing Family Guy next year and Bob's Burgers a couple of years after that, along with Adult Swim as well. So it made sense at the time, but then, like I said in my Animaniacs segment a couple of episodes ago, it a lot of things happened in between that time, like the AT&T Time Warner buyout, HBO Max being announced, and just the Disney acquisition of 20th Television, or 20th Century Fox, or 21st Century Fox, excuse me, which is the which is the company that owns the production studio behind American Dad. So yeah, I mean, it's been, not that that has anything to do with Close Enough. I'm just getting sidetracked. Anyway, but yeah, there was a lot that happened in between the time that that Close Enough was announced and when it was released in July of this year. And I should mention that Final Space, and I'm guessing another show that was supposed to be part of this TBS block, that got moved to Adult Swim. So, yeah, there's that. So, yeah. So Close Enough just got moved to HBO Max, which, I don't know how, well this show performed on HBO Max. I'm hoping it performed pretty well because it's very funny, and I highly recommend that you watch it if you haven't already. But yeah, Close Enough, pretty good show. It's on HBO Max. Definitely watch it if you have access to HBO Max. Highly recommend that. And then up next, we have Looney Tunes cartoons. So Looney Tunes cartoons came out at the launch of HBO Max back in May. It was a launch title. And it was the only animated launch title, if I remember correctly, on HBO Max. So that was something that I tuned into immediately when HBO Max launched. And I wasn't disappointed. The Looney Tunes characters feel very fresh. They feel very, I shouldn't say fresh, but they feel like, they just, or they feel like they haven't, or they feel very much the same as they have been. So like Daffy Duck, Bugs Bunny, Porky Pig, and like just like every voice actor on there did a fantastic job, and shout out to Pete Browngardt and the team at Warner Brothers Animation for that. Like, they did an excellent job. I mean, the only criticism I may have for it was that they may have dialed up the like stupidity of Daffy Duck a little bit too much. But other than that, like, I can't really find anything to complain about for Looney Tunes cartoons. So great job, Warner Brothers Animation. Also, shout out to the crews at Cartoon Network Studios and Warner Brothers Animation that worked on Close Enough and Animaniacs 2020 respectively. So yeah, I mean, I think those would be like my favorite three new cartoon series of 2020. So yeah, and then up next we have my favorite new anime series of 2020. So despite COVID and everything, just going to shit this year, I'm glad that we at least got some good anime out of it. And yeah, there are some pretty good anime that I'm going to be talking about. Excuse me. And first up, or let's just jump right into it. First up, we have Appare Ranman. And Appare Ranman is basically like a steampunk show where like you have this engineer who is named Appare, and he stumbles in LA after getting on a boat and his should I say guardian? I don't know, but like his, I guess, chaperone. I don't know the correct term here. He he basically accompanies him to LA because they're obviously originally from Japan, and they're trying to enter this cross-country race across the U.S. So like, it's just a really fun anime that that deals with certain topics very well, and it also just has a cast that is pretty wacky and gets into like just some pretty cool hijinks. So highly recommend Appare Ranman. It's on Funimation, I do believe, so definitely check that out if you haven't already. Then next up is Decadence, which is going a bit deeper into the sci-fi realm. And Decadence, I mean, I don't even know how to describe Decadence. I'm sure that like people better than me can. So I'm not even gonna try and explain it. Just know that it is a good show, and I also recommend watching it. And so next up is Akudama Drive, which is a more recent one. I think that came out in October, but the English dub came out last month in November. So been watching that, and it's gotten pretty good so far. Obviously, I haven't finished the series, and I should mention that these or any of the shows in any of these categories aren't in any particular order. So, just in case you were expecting like some order, like there's no order for any of these. But anyway, Akudama Drive, like it's a good like sci-fi, like it's a high octane, like cyberpunk, or it's set in like a cyberpunk world, where like you basically have like all of these criminals and they're basically trying to well, I should say you have like all of these criminals, and they're all basically, well, they're all pretty, or they all are defined by like one trait. And so like, and then you have like this one girl who just isn't very, or isn't much of a criminal. She's actually quite the opposite. She's kind of a nice girl, but like, through some, not so great decisions, she gets tied up in, criminal activities. So, I would definitely recommend watching Akudama Drive. That's probably a pretty shitty explanation. I'm not good at explaining things, so I should probably just refrain from trying to explain these shows, even though I want to. Like I'm just horrible at explaining things. So next up, we have Jujutsu Kaisen, which probably shouldn't surprise anybody. I mean, it's a show that a lot of people have been hyping up and a lot of people have been looking forward to this year, and I can see why. It's definitely got more of that spooky kind of vibe to it. So, like, naturally, like, in this year, in this, like, I mean, I don't really think any year can get, any more spooky than 2020. So, like, Jujutsu Kaisen kind of fit right at home in this year. So, that's just my opinion. But honestly, even still, like, Jujutsu Kaisen is still a pretty good shonen anime. And it's one that you can find on Crunchyroll and HBO Max, I do believe. So definitely watch it. Oh, and I should probably mention that Akudama Drive is on Funimation as well, and Decadence as well. So watch those on those platforms. And then next up is Dorohedoro, which, yeah, again, not gonna try and explain that because it's just wild. But it is a fun ride, and I do hope that you watch it. It's a Netflix original, yeah, you know where to find it. But yeah, next up and last up in this list is Great Pretender. And Great Pretender is basically just an anime about the art of conning people and trying to like swindle people out of money or out of or out of possessions, and I really like it. And there are definitely a lot of high production values in it, and the dub is great. I really like Great Pretender, and yeah, that's it for my favorite new anime of 2020. So we can now get into my favorite continuing cartoon series of 2020. First up on that list is Star Wars The Clone Wars, which got its final season this year. Very glad that we finally got a conclusion to Clone Wars. It was one of my favorite shows growing up. I still remember watching like one of the first episodes on Cartoon Network when it premiered back in 2008. So it is nice that Star Wars The Clone Wars finally got the conclusion that it deserved, especially after years and years of fans wanting a proper conclusion to Star Wars The Clone Wars. I can't recommend it enough. Go watch it. It's on Disney Plus. And yeah, if you haven't watched Clone Wars already, please do that. It's a really great show that only gets better as you watch it. So next up is Genndy Tartakovsky's Primal, which shouldn't surprise anybody. I love Genndy Tartakovsky's work, even though I may not agree with his opinions on Toonami. I at least, or that doesn't change my opinions on Genndy's work. And, Primal is just a great example of that. Like, it's a show with no dialogue, about a guy named Spear and a woman dinosaur named Fang, who they basically share a bond through the theme of loss, and that's how they become friends and have to survive this primordial world. And so I'm glad we got new episodes of that this year, because it was one of my favorites last year. So yeah, if you haven't seen Genndy Tartakovsky's Primal, it's on HBO Max, or at least episodes 1 through 5 are. I don't know if episodes 6 through 10 have made it to HBO Max yet, but hopefully they will soon. But just give it time, and like all of season 1 will be on HBO Max at some point. But if you want to watch the first 5 episodes of Genndy Tartakovsky's Primal, they're up on HBO Max, so have at it. Up next, we do have Adventure Time Distant Lands. Now, I should say that I haven't seen Obsidian yet. I definitely will, but Adventure Time Distant Lands is a favorite of mine because like it just expands on the characters of Adventure Time, especially after the main series ended. I liked the BMO special a lot. It was a great hour-long special. And so I can't wait to see Obsidian. I'm definitely going to watch that as soon as possible before I have to go back to work again in the new year. So, yeah. Highly recommend Adventure Time Distant Lands, especially if you're a fan of Adventure Time. I think you're going to like it. But that's just me. And then next up, we have Mike Tyson Mysteries. I like Mike Tyson Mysteries. I think it's one of the best Adult Swim originals to come out in a very long time. And Mike Tyson Mysteries just continued because it ended after this most recent season. It continued to deliver the quality of comedy that I've expected from Mike Tyson Mysteries. It's always been pretty funny. I really enjoyed it. It's one of those Adult Swim shows where it's not like leaning too much into the stoner crowd, if that makes sense. But it's definitely approachable by, just casual viewers. And also, like I've said in previous segments of this podcast, it's basically a modern Hanna-Barbera cartoon. And I mean, who doesn't like those? But yeah, definitely check out Mike Tyson Mysteries. It's on Hulu, which is surprising. I thought it would have been on HBO Max since it's an Adult Swim show that's made by Warner Brothers Animation. But nope. It's on Hulu. Don't know how long it'll be on Hulu, but for now it's on Hulu. So definitely watch it there. And you can watch Adventure Time Distant Lands on HBO Max. And then the following show that I'm going to mention is also on HBO Max and will become a Max original with its next season, and that show is Harley Quinn. So Harley Quinn, even though it's a show that came out in 2019, I started watching it this year because it came on Sci-Fi before HBO Max came out. And then once HBO Max came out, a couple months after that, season 2 got onto the service, and I watched that as well. And the show is just really funny, and you could definitely tell that the voice actors were having fun with it, and it was just hilarious. It's a great take on these DC characters, like Harley Quinn and Poison Ivy and the Joker, with some cameos from, of course, Batman. A cameo of Superman is in there, Wonder Woman as well. And then you have the supporting characters like King Shark, and the whole show is just pretty funny. And so I am happy that Harley Quinn gets to continue on HBO Max with a third season. and I definitely look forward to seeing more of it. But yeah, that's it for my favorite continuing cartoon series of 2020. My favorite continuing anime series of 2020. Well, I mean, there aren't that many, truthfully. And, well, I mean, yeah, there's pretty much just one, and that is My Hero Academia. Like season 4 continued into this year, and I liked what I saw of it, especially with the festival arc. Wait, was it the festival or was it? I don't remember what it's called, but I think it was the festival arc. But also there were some highlight moments of it that I liked, particularly the debut of Mirko, for reasons that definitely don't have to do with horniness, but we'll just keep it at that. But yeah, My Hero Academia, I'm sure I don't really need to explain this show to any of you listening. Like, you probably know where to find it. I mean, it's on Crunchyroll, it's on Funimation, like, it's on pretty much almost every streaming service that isn't named Netflix or Amazon Prime. So definitely watch it. Highly recommend My Hero Academia if you're like one of the 2 people listening to this who hasn't watched My Hero Academia. Please watch it. It's a great show. Definitely recommend it. It's got 4 seasons worth of content to watch, so that should keep you busy for the weekend. Just saying. So next up, we got my favorite animated shorts of 2020, and my first one is one that just came out a few weeks ago. And that I talked about in, I think, the previous episode. And that is, of course, Frank Abney's Canvas. That is definitely a short that I recommend watching. And Frank Abney is a former Pixar animator who had worked on the recent movie Soul for Disney Plus, or that just released on Disney Plus. It was originally supposed to be released in theaters, but then 2020 happened, so that was just thrown out the window. So they had to release it on Disney Plus, and I'm glad they did, because probably wouldn't have risked my health to go see it in the theater. So very happy that Canvas is out. It's a great short that deals with loss and and demotivation, which is something that I struggle with, especially when creating this show. And yeah, I mean, it's just it's pretty great. I can't think of any more positive things to say about it. So definitely watch Canvas. It's on Netflix. It's about 9 minutes long, so not a huge time commitment. And then up next is my other favorite short, which is Sol Levante. And I gotta be honest, I like this one because it's pretty much a tech demo of what could happen when you try and create anime in 4K, all digitally. And so that's exactly what Sol Levante is. It's best experienced in 4K. So if you have a 4K TV or a 4K monitor, definitely recommend watching Sol Levante. It's one of the first anime of its kind. So it's a 4-minute 4K short. So definitely recommend watching it. And Netflix even released some production material, which I think is pretty awesome because it allows other creators, not just other studios or other anime studios, but other creators in general to create more 4K content, 4K anime, because that's something that we don't see a lot, especially with all of the TV anime that we're getting. It's pretty much in 1080p, and Netflix knows that they're capable of much more. So I think that's probably why they made this short, as a proving ground, saying, "Hey, we can do this. Like, this is what we're capable of." And they partnered with Production IG on it, which is a well-respected studio in the anime industry. So, yeah, great short, visually pleasing. I can't really say much more positive things about it. If you like eye candy, Sol Levante is your jam. So that's it for favorite anime or animated shorts of 2020. And so my favorite cartoon studio of 2020 is Warner Brothers Animation, which shouldn't really surprise anybody. I mean, Warner Brothers Animation definitely came out swinging this year. Like, they or just to recap what they've done this year. They had Animaniacs 2020. They had Looney Tunes cartoons. They had Mike Tyson Mysteries new season come out this year. They had Harley Quinn come out this year. They also had that Mortal Kombat movie, Scorpion's Revenge, come out this year. And so Warner Brothers Animation has just been like firing on all cylinders with content this year. So they definitely deserve the favorite cartoon studio of 2020 award. Well, I mean, it's not really an award, but like, you know what I mean. They definitely deserve that recognition. So, congrats to Sam Register and the team at Warner Brothers Animation. Y'all have done a fantastic job this year, and I hope to see more out of you in 2021. And then my favorite anime studio of 2020 is Mappa, or is it Mappa? I don't know how it's pronounced, but Mappa also fired on all cylinders this year. Like, they had Dorohedoro come out. They had The God of High School, which is a Crunchyroll original. That came out. And then they had Jujutsu Kaisen come out. And there were other anime that were announced at Netflix that's come from them. And then they just recently announced a Chainsaw Man adaptation. And so, like, Mappa has just been, like, getting, banger after banger after banger. And also, I should mention that they're currently, or that they produce the currently airing final season of Attack on Titan, taking over for Wit Studios. So, like, Mappa is just increasing their output a lot, and I hope that the quality of their output doesn't suffer because of it, but we shall see, in 2021 and beyond. But yeah, Mappa definitely deserves favorite anime studio of 2020 because they put out a lot of good content this year. And so now you may be wondering why there aren't any films included in this list. And well, that's simply because I haven't really watched that many animated movies. So yeah, I do want to watch Wolfwalkers. That's definitely something that, or that's definitely a film that I look forward to watching. I know it's on Apple TV Plus, and I really I enjoyed Soul on Disney Plus that just came out a few days ago. But yeah, I mean, I feel like I haven't watched enough animated movies to make an animated films list for this year, so that's why I didn't include it. But yeah, those were my favorites from animation. Do you think that I may have missed something? Because there are definitely some cartoons that I haven't watched, like Kipo and the Age of Wonder Beasts, or The Owl House, or or She-Ra, or like there's just a lot that I haven't watched yet. So what do you think of my picks for favorite anime or favorite animation of 2020? Let me know on social media or on Discord, and links to those will be in the show notes right below that subscribe or follow button, depending on which platform you're on, and we can continue the conversation there. But yeah, let me know what you think of my picks. Do you have some different ones? Do you have some recommendations for me to watch based on what I've listed in this segment? Let me know. But yeah, that is definitely going to do it for this topic. Up next, we'll be talking about my favorites in tech, and then after that, we'll be talking about my favorites in gaming for 2020. The Cels and Circuits podcast will be back after this. This episode is sponsored by Yubico. Yubico sets new world standards for simple, secure login, preventing unauthorized access to computers, servers, and internet accounts. Their YubiKey is a physical security key using two-factor authentication to protect your accounts. As more of us continue to work from home, it is more important than ever to protect your secure information. So, what can you do to protect your accounts? Well, Yubico is offering our listeners $10 off your next purchase of $100 or more using the code POD at yubico.com. That's code POD at yubico.com. Say hello to the YubiKey and goodbye to account takeovers. Hey, Cels and Circuits listeners. Did you know that we now have a merch store? It's true. In partnership with Bonfire, we've launched the Cels and Circuit shop, where you can find t-shirts, hoodies, face masks, and more. So hit the link in the show notes to visit the Cels and Circuit shop and start getting your merch today. It really does help out the show. Thanks for your support, and now, back to the show. All right, welcome back. And so, now it's time to talk about my favorite tech for 2020. And this is basically the tech that I've used and enjoyed the most. And even some trends, which I'll talk about towards the end. But let's start off with my smartphone, because that's something I've been on a lot. So my favorite smartphone of 2020 is obviously the Google Pixel 5, because I love that phone. It is a fantastic phone, and it was a great upgrade from my Pixel 3, and it really improved on the two things that I wanted it to improve on, which was battery life and screen size. And yeah, the screen size is definitely bigger, and the battery is way bigger than it was on my Pixel 3. So very happy about that. Pixel 5, great phone. And I got it on the Black Friday deal, so it was $650 instead of the full $700, which isn't that much of a discount, but excuse me, since I traded in my Pixel 3 for it, it brought down the price a little bit, so that definitely helped. Pixel 5, definitely a good phone. I would say maybe don't get it at the $700 price. Wait till it goes on sale. But otherwise, great phone. And so my smartwatch of choice for 2020 was a gift to me from my girlfriend, and that is the Mobvoi TicWatch Pro 3. And so that watch is a very awesome watch. It's the only Wear OS smartwatch that has the Qualcomm Snapdragon Wear 4100 in it, and therefore it's the only Wear OS smartwatch that I recommend to anybody looking for a Wear OS smartwatch. All of the other ones I don't even recommend, at least right now. At least until other manufacturers like Fossil and the Moto 360 line come out with watches that have the new Qualcomm chip, because that Qualcomm chip has just worked wonders on performance for for or not just the TicWatch Pro 3, but Wear OS in general. It just feels much more responsive, and it makes me want to use my smartwatch again, which is something that I couldn't really say of the Fossil Gen 5 that I upgraded from. So yeah, really, really grateful to Mobvoi for putting that out. So good job, Mobvoi. You did well on that smartwatch. I'm sorry. The only complaint that I have about the Mobvoi TicWatch Pro 3 is that it doesn't have like a digital crown like the Fossil watches do and like the Apple Watch does. So that's pretty much my only complaint about it, because like the digital crown allows for more of a tactile interaction with the smartwatch, where I'm not having to touch the screen, getting my disgusting fingerprints all over it. So like that's pretty much my only complaint. But other than that, I can't really say anything bad about the TicWatch Pro 3. At least that's Mobvoi's fault. All the other stuff is pretty much Google's fault, with the exception of duplicate apps. But other than that, yeah, Mobvoi knocked it out of the park. So next up is my favorite smart home gadget of 2020, and this one shouldn't really come as a surprise, because I've talked about it before, especially during the launch night in event in late September. And so that, of course, is the Chromecast with Google TV. The Chromecast with Google TV is, it's a Chromecast, but now instead of just being like a device that only receives content from your phone, now it does that, and it also allows for apps to run on the Chromecast natively, because it has Android TV built into it with the Google TV skin on top. So the Google TV skin on top allows for personalized recommendations that are presented in a pretty way. And I like that it's tailored to me and my tastes. So I would get recommended some, animated series and some anime, and some like sci-fi stuff, because Google knows that I like that stuff. So that's something that I really like about it. There are, of course, two major gripes that I have with the Chromecast with Google TV. The first is no multiple user support. So if you're not the person who set it up and linked their Google account with the Chromecast, there's a pretty good chance that the content is not going to be recommended to you, which can be frustrating, especially for a device that, is meant to be in people's living rooms with multiple people using it. Like, multiple user profiles should be a given for a device like the Chromecast with Google TV, but it's not on there yet. Hopefully, with the Android TV version of Android 12, maybe Google will finally implement that feature. Hopefully, fingers crossed, but we'll see. And the second major gripe that I have with the Chromecast with Google TV is, well, I mean, if you've been following this podcast, you notice that I've talked about a particular cloud gaming service a lot. So that is, of course, Google Stadia. That is not supported on the Chromecast with Google TV at the time of this recording. And, you know, that's very frustrating. Like, it was definitely frustrating when the device first came out and Google got a ton of flack for it, which is, it kind of deserved some of that flack, or most of it. And, the Chromecast with Google TV also doesn't have a standalone YouTube Music app, but that's more on the YouTube Music team. So, get on that YouTube Music team. But back to Stadia. Now, Stadia did announce that they will be supporting the Chromecast with Google TV and other Android TV-based devices in the first half of 2021. Now, I'm hoping that it's, Q1, which is January through March, but it could be Q2, which is April through June. So that's definitely an option, but I'm hoping it's in Q1. But that's just me. But yeah, so like I would recommend the Chromecast with Google TV to pretty much anyone except Stadia users. For Stadia users, I will hold off on that until native Stadia support comes with the Chromecast with Google TV. And really, Stadia support is the only thing keeping the Chromecast with Google TV from my living room. Otherwise, I mean, if it did have Stadia support, like I would switch out my Chromecast Ultra for it right now. But unfortunately, that's not the case. So, oh well. But yeah, still recommend the Chromecast with Google TV. And I may or may not have affiliate links in the show notes for you to go get it. I mean, it's only $50, so like it's definitely not a huge hole in your pocket. It's like at $50, that's an easy recommendation. The Chromecast with Google TV. Cannot recommend it enough. But up next are my favorite headphones of 2020. And these were recently gifted to me from my girlfriend again. And so these are the Sony WH-1000X M4s. I love these. Like, I have the Mark IIIs, and I love those too. But the one major gripe that I had with it was that it couldn't connect to two devices at the same time. So I'm glad that the Mark IVs actually do that. And now that I have them, I will definitely be using them a lot in the new year, especially hopefully when the world goes back to normal. But we'll see. But yeah, Sony WH-1000X M4s. Highly recommend those. I will also have an affiliate link for that too, as well as all of the other products that I mention in this segment. But yeah, another part of tech is like entertainment tech, and these are like my favorite streaming service, or this is my favorite streaming service of 2020, and it's one that you could probably guess considering that I talk about networks like Cartoon Network and Adult Swim a lot on this podcast. Of course, that streaming service is HBO Max. HBO Max, while it didn't have a lot of content at launch, at least not from anything other than like HBO and like a couple of Max originals, it's slowly been adding more and more of Warner Media's library. So yeah, like I said, Cartoon Network shows, Adult Swim shows. There's also DC content that's been added onto there. And then you also have the Studio Ghibli movies, which HBO Max exclusively streams here in the US. And then you have the Crunchyroll collection, which streams like basically a curated collection of Crunchyroll content onto HBO Max. So you have things like, of course, the Crunchyroll originals like The God of High School and Tower of God, as well as like fan favorites like Inuyasha, Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood, and others. And then you have Crunchyroll licensed content like Mob Psycho 100. You have Jujutsu Kaisen, which is on there. So like there's a pretty good mix of shows that, especially if you haven't gotten into anime yet, I think the shows that are on HBO Max in the Crunchyroll collection would definitely be good gateway shows, or at least most of them would be good gateway shows into anime. So highly recommend getting HBO Max, especially now that Warner Brothers movies for the year of 2021 will be released day and date in theaters and on HBO Max at the same time. Like that just infinitely shot up the value of HBO Max, in my opinion. So, yeah, HBO Max, definitely my favorite streaming service of 2020. And then last but not least, my favorite tech trends of 2020. So first up is cloud gaming. Now, that's something that I talk a lot about on this channel, but I'm not going to pretend that only one player, Microsoft, exists in the space, because that's clearly a lie. I know that with Google Stadia appearing on the scene in 2019, There have been more companies that have popped up in the cloud gaming space this year in 2020. Like, for example, NVIDIA GeForce Now exited out of beta this year. Xbox Game Pass Ultimate included the cloud gaming portion of Xbox, or included xCloud onto Xbox Game Pass Ultimate. So that is so that's probably the cloud gaming provider that people most pay attention to, because that is because it comes from Microsoft, which has had decades in the gaming space. And then also Amazon came out with Amazon Luna. And so that's now in the cloud gaming space as well, in early access. And Microsoft is also, or xCloud is also in beta, as they say as well. So Stadia and GeForce Now are the only ones that are not in beta. So cloud gaming, that space has definitely become more competitive. And so that's something that I really like to see, because these companies, especially Google, Microsoft, NVIDIA, and Amazon, can all push each other to be better in the cloud gaming space. And, when companies compete, we win. So, or we get a lot better cloud gaming services. So definitely looking forward to where cloud gaming goes in 2021 and beyond. And I look forward to playing with a lot of cloud gaming services like Google Stadia and Amazon Luna and xCloud and NVIDIA GeForce Now. I look forward to playing on all of those cloud gaming services, and you'll definitely hear a lot more from me on that front in this podcast, so stay tuned for that. And then another tech trend that I liked was the rise of ARM-based computers. So with Apple officially ditching Intel for their chips in their computers, their processors, and going for their own custom Apple silicon that they've been using in the iPhones and the iPads and the Apple TVs and the watches, and the Apple Watches. That is a pretty significant shift, and it looks like, or from the reviews that I've seen of the M1 Max, they've been doing very well, and they've been outperforming in orders of magnitude the Intel Max that came before them. So I'm interested in seeing how Microsoft responds to it with Windows. I'm interested in seeing how Google responds to it with Chrome OS, because, with Windows, we don't really see a lot of ARM-based computers. I know Samsung makes some. I think Lenovo makes some. Or if I'm not mistaken, I could be wrong though. And then also, um, God, what was the other manufacturer I was thinking of? There's Microsoft. There's Lenovo. Oh, Samsung. Yeah, Samsung definitely makes ARM-based Windows computers. So I'm interested to see how that space develops, especially in light of the Apple Silicon, or in light of the Apple Silicon Macs releasing. And then also, I'm interested in seeing how Chrome OS responds to it, because yeah, there are some ARM-based Chromebooks out in the wild right now. The most recent one I can think of was this Acer one. I think it's an Acer one. Let me know if I have the manufacturer wrong. But I think it's an Acer Chromebook that has the Qualcomm Snapdragon 7CX in it or something like that. And so I would like to see some more Chromebooks getting these Qualcomm chips and, MediaTek chips as well, because Chromebooks like the Lenovo Chromebook Duet have MediaTek chips in them. So I would also like to see some competition there, just so that Qualcomm is kept on their toes, because Qualcomm is one of the more dominant players in ARM chipsets that isn't Apple. So I would like to see some more competition in that space. But yeah. Oh, and I should probably mention foldable phones, or different form factors of phones, because while I like my Pixel 5, like realistically, it's just another glass slab, or glass on aluminum slab, I guess. Like other phones are glass on glass slab, and then other phones are glass on plastic slabs. I'm happy to see that, like, foldables and dual screen phones, like the Surface Duo and the LG V60 with the case that it has, and like foldables like the Samsung Galaxy Z Flip and Z Fold 2, and then like the Motorola Razr. I like seeing these new form factors, and the LG Wing, I should shout out as well. I like seeing these new form factors get a shot, because it feels like smartphones are pretty boring right now, and so like those form factors kind of breathe like a little bit newer life into quickly stagnating part of the tech sector. So yeah, those are my thoughts on my favorites in tech for 2020. Do you think that I missed anything? Well, I definitely missed a lot. But let me know what your favorites in tech were, what your favorite smartphone, smartwatch, smart home gadget, streaming service, headphones, or even let me know what your favorite tech trends of 2020 were. On social media or on Discord. I'll have links in the show notes so that or so you can do that and we can continue the conversation there. But yeah, that's going to do it for this topic. Up next, we'll be talking about my favorites in gaming for 2020. The Cels and Circuits podcast will be right back. Hey, Cels and Circuits listeners. Want to support the show without having to buy any merch? Well, you can do that by buying us a coffee. All it takes is just $1 to help support the show. So click the link in the show notes or go to ko-fi.com/Cels and Circuits to help make the Cels and Circuits podcast a better show for you. Are you a small business looking for a financial platform to do business on? Check out Payment, the first Black-owned financial platform where you can do things like sending invoices, accepting payments, and more features will be added in the future. If you watch Trigger Warning with Killer Mike on Netflix, you know that money stays within the Black community for an average of 6 hours compared to the days and sometimes weeks that other communities get. So if you want to bring or keep money in the Black community, join Payment, that's PEYMYNT, at the affiliate link in the show notes today. Welcome back, and now it's time to start talking about my favorites in gaming in 2020. So, despite 2020 being a pretty shitty year, I'm glad that we at least got some good games to tide us over into 2021. So, excuse me. I will be talking about them in this segment. And let's just jump right into it. So, my favorite games of 2020, in no particular order. These are Immortals Fenyx Rising. I really enjoyed that one. It's a new IP from Ubisoft, which has some elements of Assassin's Creed and Breath of the Wild. So it's kind of a bit of a fusion between the two of them, with some Greek gods commentary that's supposed to be funny, which, you know, you may or may not find funny if you play it. So your mileage may vary on that front. It's subjective, but I mean, the combat is pretty polished. Like, the game looks gorgeous on all platforms. I mean, because, like, we've had some games, Cyberpunk 2077, that don't really look that great on some platforms. But I'm glad this didn't have those pitfalls. So, Immortals Fenyx Rising, definitely recommended. It's out on pretty much every platform. So yeah, definitely get it and play it once you get the chance to. I recommend it. Next up is Fall Guys Ultimate Knockout. Like, I still play Fall Guys a lot, despite never organically winning a crown, because I fucking suck. But yeah, I mean, Fall Guys, it just keeps me coming back. I don't know what it is about that game, but it just keeps me coming back, and I definitely appreciate it, especially now that we're in the winter season. I wasn't really too enthused I wasn't too enthusiastic about the whole medieval times season for season 2, but very glad that I got Fall Guys, and I got to play it because it's definitely worth it. It's out on PS4, and you could probably play it on PS5 too, and Steam, and or I'm guessing like other PC stores as well. I'm not sure, but I know it's on Steam and PlayStation. So you can definitely check that out if you're on either of those platforms. Highly recommend that. It's a fun game. And then next up is Crash Bandicoot 4. Crash Bandicoot 4, it definitely brings back that precise platforming that you know and love if you've played Crash Bandicoot games before. And so like it'll make you mad, but once you finish the levels, like it definitely feels worth it. Like I know I've died like what 30 something times in a level before, so that was the boss level. So yeah, it's it's definitely a difficult game, but it is very rewarding. And so, yeah, Crash Bandicoot 4. It's on PC. No, wait. Is it on PC? I don't know. I know it's on console, so I know it's on Xbox One, PS4, and you could probably play it on the new generation consoles as well, the PS5 and Xbox Series X and S. There hasn't been a release date that I know of for the Nintendo Switch version, and I don't know if it's ever going to come to platforms like Google Stadia, but I do hope that it does, but we shall see. But yeah, Activision definitely get on those Nintendo Switch and Google Stadia ports for Crash Bandicoot 4. I would very much appreciate that. Thanks. So next up is Ghost of Tsushima. I really enjoy a lot of samurai stories. I've been playing Samurai Jack Battle Through Time on Xbox, and I'm playing Sekiro Shadows Die Twice on Google Stadia. So, clearly I have a thing for samurai stories. So Ghost of Tsushima is probably one of the best ones. And the story is just awesome, and it has this nice kind of old samurai movie feel to it. So I really do like it. The story's definitely great. The gameplay is great. So I highly recommend it. And it's a PlayStation exclusive because it's a first-party PlayStation game. So if you're in the PlayStation ecosystem, highly recommend that. Now let's go over to the opposite side of the fence with an Xbox exclusive, at least on console. And that is Battletoads. I definitely enjoy Battletoads. I played this game first solo, but then with my girlfriend, she saw me playing it and she wanted to join in on the fun. So from that point on, we had played the game together, and it took it took us about like 4 hours to beat the campaign or the story mode of it. So it's not that long, but I am very happy that this game came out. It's a beat 'em up game. It's also like a platformer, and it's I don't know what like the kart racing levels are called, but or I shouldn't say like racing, but like the kind of like the kart racing slash like hole in the wall level. Like I don't know what those are called. Let me know on social media or on Discord what those levels are called, but I can't think of it right now. But I enjoy Battletoads a lot. So, shout out to Dlala and Microsoft and Rare for making that. Especially Dlala. They did a really great job with the cutscenes. I thought the cutscenes were dope. And they did a great job with the game too. But the cutscenes were just really nice. And I would like to see an animated series of Battletoads one day. So I hope that the powers that be over at Microsoft and Xbox Game Studios and Rare are able to make that happen, whether it's with Dlala or another company. I would love to see a Battletoads animated series, and I'm sure I'm not the only one. But yeah, those are my top 5 games of 2020. So next up, we have my favorite gaming platform of 2020, which, I mean, y'all probably know what's coming. I mean, I've talked about it a lot on the show, and I just think it's a great platform. And that platform is Google Stadia. So Google Stadia started out 2020 not with a great reputation amongst gamers. And in the gaming community, with gaming and tech reviews, like a lot of the mainstream, like journalists and influencers may not have given Stadia a second chance after the initial kind of review period and launch period. So, there may have been like a lot of misinformation being spread about it, and there may have been some there have been people who have even bullied people who play on Stadia, or that still goes on today, which is very shameful for the gaming community. Like, stop that shit. It's not cool. You're not cool just because you game on a more popular platform. It's not cool. Like, don't be an asshole. With Stadia, it turned from basically being a joke within the gaming community to being an actual viable platform. And people saw that with games like Baldur's Gate 3 back in October, I do believe. And then more recently, Cyberpunk 2077, because Stadia was one of the only platforms, or pretty much the only platform outside of PC, where it was running I wouldn't say without bugs, but it definitely had one of the more stable versions of the game, or one of the most stable versions of the game. So, and people saw that with the recent campaigns that Google's done with like YouTube Premium. So, if you had a YouTube Premium account before like November 6th or something like that, you got to get a free Stadia Premiere Edition. And then also, if you pre-ordered Cyberpunk on Stadia, you also got a Premiere Edition, which the Premiere Edition includes the controller, or the Stadia controller, and a Chromecast Ultra. So you got like $100 worth of hardware for free, pretty much. So once people, tried it out with Cyberpunk, like some people just converted, and so now I think that with Cyberpunk, people are starting to see that, hey, Stadia is a viable platform. It's no longer the joke that people in the gaming community have said that it was at the beginning of the year. So that's definitely a lot of progress. That's a lot of improvement over the course of a year. So props to Google Stadia and the team on that. And I wish y'all the best in 2021 and beyond, because I will definitely be playing on Stadia in 2021 and beyond. But yeah, let's continue on. Favorite Xbox exclusive of 2020, Battletoads, obviously, which I just talked about earlier, so I'm not really going to say much about that anymore. And then with Ghost of Tsushima, that is my favorite PlayStation exclusive of 2020. So again, talked about that earlier, so not really going to say much about that. And then my favorite Google Stadia exclusive for this year actually was Gunsport. And that is a game from the team over at Necrosoft Games, which is a more like, or it's a game that's more reminiscent of like 90s, like, I guess, 16-bit games that like, and it definitely has that, or it definitely has the music to match that, or that vibe. So I really enjoy Gunsport. It is a game that I still think is on Stadia Pro, if I'm not mistaken. I could be wrong though, but definitely check out Gunsport. It's a fun game to play. So yeah, I do hope that you check that out. It's definitely a sleeper on Stadia. But next up is my favorite gaming controller, which is one that I haven't played as much of, but when I did, it felt really good to do so. And that was the Razer Kishi, which is a USB-C and now Lightning for iPhones controller that attaches onto both of the sides of your phone, left and right. And it allows you to play games that, support controllers. And a great thing about the Razer Razer Kishi is that it came at the right time because cloud gaming services like Google Stadia, Xbox Game Pass Ultimate, NVIDIA GeForce Now, and now Amazon Luna, they're all coming out. So like, the Razer Kishi couldn't have come at a better time. And so like, I highly recommend the Razer Kishi, and I believe that if you go to like Walmart, there's like a mobile gaming bundle for like the gaming, or for the Razer Kishi and the Razer Hammerhead wireless earbuds. So I mean, and that's for like $80. So like, I would definitely recommend getting that. I don't know if like your local store or your local like Walmart has any more, but if you can find one for $80, definitely get it. I think, those two things together, that's a steal for that price. So I can't really recommend that enough. But then next up, I'm going to talk about why there isn't a favorite Nintendo Switch exclusive category, and that's because I only bought one Switch exclusive game, which was a remake of 3 old games, or I shouldn't say remake, but like a port of 3 old games. So that's, of course, Super Mario 3D All-Stars. So yeah, that's the only Nintendo exclusive that I bought this year. I didn't get into Animal Crossing. My girlfriend did, but I didn't. So there's that. And so, yeah. Yeah, no favorite Nintendo Switch exclusive category. But yeah, those are my favorite things in gaming of 2020. Let me know what your favorite games were in 2020, what your favorite platform to play on in 2020 was, what your favorite like exclusive game was, what your favorite multi-platform game was, what your favorite controller was that came out this year. And yeah, we can continue the conversation. Excuse me. Ooh, wow. On social media or on Discord. I'll have links in the show notes right below that subscribe or follow button, depending on which platform you're on. And yeah, I mean, that's going to do it for this segment and this episode. Thank you so much for listening, and thank you so much for, just supporting this podcast throughout 2020. I mean, we started in April and we're 22 episodes strong. And I do plan on releasing new episodes every Saturday starting January 9th. So stay tuned for that. I'm trying to release new episodes on a weekly basis. So I want to get more content out to you, the listeners. So yeah, stay tuned for that. Weekly episodes coming in 2021, starting January 9th. But yeah, happy holidays, happy new year. And let's just end 2020 the best that we can, and I wish all of you the best in 2021. I hope you stay safe and and I hope you're spending time with your loved ones, and, safely, of course. And yeah, that's it. Thank you for listening, and, and have a happy new year. Sandra Bland, Terrence Crutcher, Trayvon Martin, Philando Castile, Mike Brown, Alton Sterling, Ahmaud Arbery, Walter Scott, Breonna Taylor, Eric Harris, George Floyd, Tony Robinson, Keith Childress, Romaine Brisbane, Betty Jones, Tamir Rice, Kevin Matthews, Laquan McDonald, Michael Noel, Michael Brown Jr., Roy Nelson, Eric Garner. These are just some of the names of people who have been murdered by police and have gotten either a slap on the wrist or have gotten away with committing such a heinous crime scot-free. If you are an American, or even if you're not an American, you should be outraged by this, as I am. This cannot continue to happen, and it speaks to a very long history of racism and police brutality here in the United States of America, and also in other countries as well. Police brutality is not a U.S. exclusive problem. It's happening around the globe. So, how can you help stop this? Well, you can go and protest, but be very peaceful about it, of course. And if you don't want to go to the protests, that's fine. You can also donate to many different charities that are helping with the cause. If you can't do that, you can also sign petitions to help the cause as well and share those petitions. And for all of these suggestions that I've made, you can do all of them and encourage your friends and family to do the same, because staying silent is staying complicit, and we cannot stay complicit any longer. This change needs to happen now. And so I just want to leave you with this message. Black lives matter, always and forever. All lives cannot matter until Black lives matter. Remember that. Thank you. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Cels and Circuits podcast. In less than 9 months, we've hit almost 2,000 listens and released over 1,000 minutes of this show into the wild. I'm extremely grateful to you, the listeners, for making this possible, and I hope to release more high-quality content in 2021. Happy holidays and have a safe and happy new year. Our intro, transition, and outro music was made by Tiffy3. For the final time in 2020, I'm Chibeze, signing off.